Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Here a couple minutes early, no worries. We got about 5 minutes until good afternoon, everybody. Sound coming on. Here a couple minutes early, no worries. We got about 5 minutes until good afternoon, everybody. Wow. Okay, perfect. All right, good. So we got a few minutes early. I'm just going to shut the shades here because we are getting some crazy amounts of shadows. Yeah. Okay. See if that does it any better. Okay. Perfect. So, yeah, today we are going to be talking about valuation. And if you notice, I have sweatpants on. You are correct, because I got a little leg brace action going on here, so can't really wear jeans on. But I'm just dealing with my ACL surgery. Oh, you can't really see because I got the virtual background, but I'm working from home. I just had ACL surgery, had my ACL replaced a couple weeks ago. So I am working on getting that taken care of. In any event, super excited because this is one of the best ways to sell real estate is to learn how to value commercial real estate properly. I cannot express how important of a skill this is. So I'm really, really happy to be teaching this tonight, because this is like number one skill you have to have. If you don't have it, you're not going to be selling as much as you possibly could, right? And this is one of those things where once you invest the time in yourself and learning the skill, you have it forever, right? Like you learned your ABCs when you were a kid, right? But at the end of the day, you never forgot them. No one ever has to teach you again. And you've been using them every day of your life since then, right? Similarly, this is a foundational kind of skill set that once you learn, you'll be able to utilize for many years to come. So, so strap yourself in and get a pencil and paper ready, because there's going to be some math involved. If you can, have a calculator out, which would be awesome. And we're just going to hang back. For those of you that are joining right now, if you could do me a favor and put where you're tuning in from, right? What part of the country? And if when you do hop on, start hitting that like button. We want to tell Facebook that we are on here and engaging, because we want to do, if you can pay it forward or help me pay it forward, right? By letting that'll let Facebook know that we are engaging, and that to push the live out to as many people as possible. We got like 1,700 in the group at this point, so we want to have that notification go as far and as wide so everybody can benefit from what I'm going to be teaching here tonight. So if you can smash that like button and let me know where you're tuning in from, what your city and state is, because I always like to start the beginning the same exact way, and that's by letting you know kind of what the average commercial transaction size is in your state, because I find it helpful because it puts this into context. You know, did you ever have a student or have a teacher when you were in school, and they would teach you all this stuff, and but they would never tell you why. They never tell you why it's important. They tell you what, but I want to tell you the why. The reason why this is important is because, for instance, in the state of Delaware, right? The average commercial size transaction is 1.8 million. So that means at a 3% fee times 1,800, boom, boom, boom. That means your average size transaction is going to be about $54,000 to one side, right? So once you start thinking about, whoa, time out. One average size transaction, in this case, in the state of Delaware, is going to put $54,000 in your pocket. That's a reason to pay attention. There's a whole lot of stuff that we learned in school that was less than super important, right? Like by show of hands, right? How many people learned trigonometry in high school, or they learned algebra or algebra 2, right? But when was the last time someone asked you what the quadratic equation was? When was the last time that somebody wanted you to tell you what the Pythagorean theorem is, or the sine, cosine, or tangent of a circle, right? Completely unimportant. Why? Because it's a skill that it's not necessarily needed. However, the fact that all of you here tuning in are in real estate, this is a skill you can immediately take and immediately, on your very first opportunity in commercial, utilize to make more money, right? So, we learned a whole lot growing up, and even in college, half of stuff that I learned in college was either a repeat of high school or, it was just kind of filler, but now this is a skill that if you learn, you will be able to turn it into tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. right? So as you're coming in, folks, if you can drop in, today we had to push things back. What we're going to do is I've noticed is we're playing with the time slot a little bit. We're having to push it back to 5:30. What we've noticed is more people have a little bit more time at the end of the day. 5 is a little bit early. I've gotten some feedback from some folks. So if you can, go ahead and put it in your calendars. Rather than being live at 5, we're going to be live at 5:30. Because we find that more people are able to get on because it's a little bit later in the day and so forth, because don't forget, we're in Eastern time zone and we might have people in the Pacific time zone or Mountain or Central that it's kind of like smack dab in the middle of the day. So by moving it back a half an hour, hopefully that makes it easier on a few folks and we get more folks on here. More eyeballs on here, the better. As I mentioned, this is my aim here is to pay it forward, educate you folks as much as possible, and empower you to let you know that you can do it, you can learn these skills and what it takes to be successful and to either, if you haven't already closed your first commercial transaction, to start closing. And if you have, to close more and to close bigger deals, right? So if you can, folks, let me know where you're coming in from in the chat. I want to give you guys some example. Like I said, I want to put this in the context for you, in terms of, okay, well, whatever your state is from, let me know where you're coming in from. So let me hop in the group and make sure that our sound is good. Yep. Okay. Perfect. Okay. We got some folks on here. I know I hopped on a little bit early. So by all means, Feliz Cayali, Miami, Florida. Oh, welcome. Cool. Awesome. I'm in Miami as well. Excellent. And so Feliz, here in the state of Florida, our average size transaction is, I always update this, so I want to make sure it's right. Yeah, it's 1.9 million, right? And we have Yanira. Hey, Yanira. Yes, 1.9 here in Miami. So 1.9 at 3%, right? Equals 57,000, right? So that's a nice little chunk of change. And the cool thing is, as part of what I do in the training program, 3% is nice, but the only thing that I like better than making $1 for a transaction is making $2 for the same amount of work, right? I love it when the other agent involved in the transaction is me, right? So my point is being able to get both the sell side transaction and the buy side, because I say, a lot of people say, oh yeah, it's all about getting listings. It is. But if you can get the listing and then market it in a way that's going to drastically increase your probability of getting both the buy side and the sell side transaction, well, that's the game that I want to play. So I can show you how to play what I call with a stacked deck, right? How to stack the odds in your favor so that there's a high percentage chance of you being the only agent involved. And it helps so many things easier. It makes the transaction move along smoother, along quicker, and so forth. As an example, last year, fourth quarter, I closed 5 transactions, and 4 of the 5, I got both the sell side and the buy side, right? It's not because I'm a genius. It's just because I have a method that works. And I'm not saying that happens all the time. I'm just saying it has happened. So it absolutely can happen to you as well. So there are definitely ways of you increasing the size of your transaction. So Phyllis and Yanira, you guys are in a great market right here. Where we are is really, really booming. We have people moving in from New York and from California and Seattle and all these tech places. Miami is trying to brand itself or rebrand itself as a tech hub. There's a big push for that. So what you're seeing a mass influx of folks in Miami. I just was on this symposium the other day, and we are the fastest growing city in Florida currently. So we are sitting in a really, really good place. But that's not to say other areas of the country aren't booming as well. So you folks, so we have nothing but Miami folks on the line. Love my 305 people. But I see we have some more people coming on. Where are you guys coming in from? Because I want to let you know kind of what size transactions are going on in your state. So go ahead and let me know. I see we have a few more folks joined, and we'll get going in just a moment. So today is going to be about valuation. Valuation is a key skill, because what you find is that you can have the best property in the best neighborhood in the best condition. You can have the best network, right? But if you don't price the property properly, guess what? It's never going to sit. It's never going to move. Oh, Brian coming in from New York. How are you, Brian? How's everything? So the point is the property is never, ever, ever going to move. Why? Because it's overpriced. The example I always give, sometimes people say, well, what if you find that one, buyer that needs to move? Yeah. You can, but that's not a kind of a high probability way of going about sales. What I always like to explain to people is like, take a $20 bill, right? And take it to 7-Eleven. And how fast do you think, and put this in the comments, guys. I'd like you to engage in the comments and kind of have a little bit of a conversation with me, right? Do you think it's going to be easy or hard for me to get 20 singles for a $20 bill, right? Do me that favor. So just type easy or type in hard in the comments. If I take a $20 bill and I bring it to 7-Eleven, I try to get 20 singles, right? Assuming that they have 20 singles in their drawer, right? So the point is, it's going to be very simple. Why? Because a $20 bill is worth $20, right? 20 singles. Tim, yes, thank you very much, Tim. Appreciate it. Yes, it's going to be very easy. The reason being, that's what the value is. Now, you take that same $20 bill and you go to 7-Eleven and you ask for 19 singles. If I send you there to do that, do you think that's going to be hashtag easy or hashtag hard? Let me know in the comments, right? Because I'm trying to illustrate a point, right? So let me know, right? So hashtag easy if you think it's gonna be easy to get 19 singles for a $20 bill, or if that's gonna be hashtag hard, let me know in the comments, right? And by the way, the reason why we have you putting comments in the comments, the more you interact with information, watching, listening, and typing, okay, the more you are engaged, the more focused you are, the more you're likely to not only understand it, remember it, and implement it. So there's absolutely a reason. It's the neuroscience of how we learn, right? So I was a psych minor in college. I was very, very tuned into how the brain works and how we learn. So do me a favor, do yourself a favor. If you want to learn this stuff, you want to be able to implement it, interact as much as possible. The more senses that you can use, whether you're writing down, whether you're typing, listening, and watching, the better off you are, okay? So yes, Tim, you're absolutely 100% right. To get 19 singles for a $20 bill is gonna be very, very simple. Now, let's take that same $20 bill and I send you to 7-Eleven and I ask you to get me 24 singles for it, right? Right? Hashtag easy or hashtag hard, whether how hard or easy it's going to be for me to get 24 singles for that $20 bill. I'll wait. Let me know. And by the way, guys, do me a favor, smash the like button and smash the heart button. We want to let as many people know as possible that we are live right now. I realize I changed the time from what's normally 5. We're moving it back a little bit because we have people in other time zones, and I've gotten feedback that it might be helpful to move it back a little bit, right? So yes, if you guys can smash that like button, smash the heart button, whatever you can do, it helps with the engagement, helps pump up the numbers because we want to be able to help, right? So yeah, so trying to get $24 for a $20 bill, right? It's going to be very, very difficult. Why? Because a $20 bill is not worth 24 singles, right? And why? Because there's an established value for it. That's the reason why today's lesson is so important, right? Because as I mentioned, fantastic property, great area of town. You can have the best flyers, the best marketing, the best email list. It doesn't matter if that property is overpriced, i.e. you're asking $24 for a $20 property, right? It's never going to sell. People that try to subscribe to what they call the greater fool theories, and say, well, I bought it. So, someone else, there's a greater fool out there. I lovingly call it the ugly baby syndrome, right? And forgive me, right? But nobody ever has an ugly baby, Everybody thinks that their baby is beautiful, number one, and just a little prettier than their neighbor's baby, just a little bit prettier than the baby down the street, right? So invariably, because as human beings, we always have that kind of that beautiful baby syndrome, right? Everyone thinks their property is just a little bit more valuable than their neighbors. Why? Because it's theirs and it's special to them, right? And so they think everyone thinks it's special. I got news for them. No, it's not. The market is what the market is for a reason. So what we try to do is, as brokers, and the reason why tonight's lesson is important for everybody is so that you can get to understand how to build a numerical case, a mathematical case on why a property is worth X or why a property is worth Y, okay? Because at the end of the day, when you go into a listing appointment, right, either two things are going to happen. Either they are going to sell you on their price, where you are going to sell them on your price. Nothing in between, right? So that's what you have to remember. And don't, please, if you learn anything from tonight, don't ask $24 for a $20 bill. Okay, that's the moral of tonight's entire lesson, right? So guys, do me a favor, while we're having other people hop on the line, we have two folks here from Miami. We have Brian from New York. Tim, I see you're on the line. Where are you coming in from, Tim? Just out of curiosity, I want to let everybody know kind of what commercial values are doing in their state and so forth, right? And if you guys could also, someone just smashed the like button. Thank you. If you can hit that over and over again, it'll push the algorithm on Facebook to let other folks know. Okay. So tonight, what we're going to do, and by the way, yep, still unchanged. Oh, we got Charlotte, North Carolina. Cool. All right. So yeah, North Carolina is a $1.2 million average commercial sales price. We got Anna Conti is from Miami. Awesome. Welcome, Anna. I also reside here in Miami. We have state of Florida has a $1.9 million average sale price. So yeah, so we're sitting pretty. So it's a nice, on average, $57,000 fee for an average transaction here in the state of Florida, right? And we have nothing but net positive, population growth. People are coming from all over, from the Northwest, from Chicago, from New York, all coming here because taxes are good and we're pretty wide open. So that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to get to the presentation on valuation momentarily. Do me a favor, folks, and let me know when you can see my screen here. Cool. Let me know when you can see. Give me some thumbs or a +1 in the chat when you can see my screen here. All right, because I'm going to go straight to the slideshow. All right, let's see. Click that there. Okay, I'm going to have to go over to my cell phone, make sure we got us here. Okay, if you guys can let me know, right? Oh, Gilberto, one of my students, he's on from, yeah, I'm kind of jealous because out in Gilberto's market, right? LA, or in California in general, is second in the nation. It's 2.8 million is the average size sale price. So they are absolutely knocking the cover off the ball out there. Really, really big opportunities. And Hawaii is the only state that's more expensive in terms of average commercial real estate prices. But yeah, so, and can you guys give me a +1 in the chat if you can see weekly training 927 valuation principles? Let me know if you don't mind. All right, just type +1 once you can see that. So I'll make sure that you can see what I can see. And okay, we're good. So again, welcome. Tonight we're going to go over valuation principles and why they're so important. If you've sold residential real estate in your career, then a lot of times you'll have handled one of the 3 ways of valuing properties, but typically not all 3. And we're going to go into the one way that properties in income producing properties and commercial are valued, right? So what we're going to cover is property valuation based on income, right? What a cap rate is, because for a lot of people, cap rate is very much a mystery, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into see why why cap rates are what they are, how they came from, and how to figure out the value of a property, right? As well as some other important metrics used in commercial real estate. So underwriting, just as a general, just so you guys, I want to try to fill in all the gaps for you. Underwriting or valuation, right, is the process of quantitatively evaluating a real estate investment for its viability and potential. So what does that mean? Basically, you should be able to, with 3 pieces of information, you should be able to determine what the value of a property will be if you know the income, if you know the expenses, and if you know what the local area cap rate is. You know those 3 pieces of information, you can assess the value of any property anywhere in the world, right? Now, if you look on the left side of the screen, you see the basic formula. Like I mentioned, you need 3 pieces of information. You need the income, you need the expenses, which will give you your net income, okay? And then you apply what's called a cap rate or capitalization rate to that net operating income, right? If you want to take a little bit further, right? Because we have the basic formula on the left. On the right, we have rental income, plus additional income equals potential gross income. You take potential gross income, you subtract out the vacancy in collection loss, and that's going to give you the EGI, or effective gross income. Once you subtract out your operating expenses from there, you're then going to get your net operating income. And we're going to go into what all these items mean on the very next slide. Now, like I mentioned, rental income is going to be rent from tenants, okay? Period, end of story. Now, additional income, I have here listed laundry and parking. Now, let's take, for example, folks, an apartment building, right? What are some other things that you can have from an apartment building that that might generate additional income for the landlord, right? For those of you that live in apartment buildings, what are some things that create income other than laundry, other than parking, and other than rent? What are some things that the landlord can collect money on? Any ideas? Storage, garages, awesome, Mike. Oh, Mike, welcome. How are you? Mike's one of my brand newest students. Just signed up over the weekend. Gym, yep, absolutely. There's some places that will charge you a service for gym. Soda and snack machines, absolutely, exactly. So you guys are getting it, right? So you got your rents, right, and your additional income, and additional income can be 4, 5, 6 different things on top of just what they call the base rent or rental income, right? Now, from there, you're going to take your collection loss. Now, what is collection loss? Collection loss is a non-paying tenant. I'm sure a lot of you folks can understand, in today's day and age, especially in the COVID era, they have all these moratoriums on non-paying tenants. Well, normally a landlord can collect or can try to collect from a tenant. We've kind of seen an interesting trend that's never been seen before. But the point is, right, landlords can, typically, you're never going to collect 100% of the rent 100% of the time. It's just impossible, right? You're always going to have somebody that lost their job, or maybe, they're down on their luck, or they got sick, or they got hurt, or what have you. So you're always going to have some factor of inability to collect all the rents. Now, there's also going to be vacancy, right? Just like no landlord's ever going to collect 100% of the rent 100% of the time, right? Because due to the tenant's inability to pay, but they're also, there's going to be what they call a vacancy loss, right? Or a vacancy factor, which means on average in this particular neighborhood, X amount of time, there's going to be, 1 apartment open or 2 apartments open, because, don't forget, people move out in between, they have to paint, they have to advertise, they have to bring people in. So you're never going to have a building 100% full 100% of the time. So there's always going to be a factor associated with that, right? And then, so from there, once you figure out what your vacancy and collection loss are, the next thing you wind up subtracting from the effective gross income is your operating expenses. Now, can anybody tell me what operating expenses? There's 2 words, right? One of them is recurring. What's the other R word that we use for operating expenses, right? Can anybody tell me what that is? And Gilberto, if you're out there, you've heard me say this 100 times in class, so feel free to chime in because we talk about this over and over again. So you have 2 types of expenses with income producing properties. You have operating expenses and you have capital expenses. Now, capital expenses are like when you change an air conditioning unit, when you resurface your roof, when you resurface the parking lot, right? These things that you do every 15 or 20 years or 30 years, right? Whereas operating expenses, they're not only recurring, but they're also regular and recurring. So think about it. You got to pay your property taxes all the time. If not, you don't have the government's going to lien your property. You got to pay your insurance, right? You have to pay for the lawn to get cut. You have to pay for common area maintenance. What does that mean? In an apartment building, it might be someone to sweep up the sidewalks. In an office building, it might be janitorial. It might be people that need to clean the lobbies and the big, marble, big grandiose lobbies and so forth, right? In the northern states, right? Snow removal, right? These are all things that are regular and recurring. They don't have to be exactly the same every month. It just has to be something that's kind of ongoing, as opposed to capital expenses, which happen every 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that sort of thing, right? And utilities, right? If the landlord pays to light the parking lot, if the landlord includes water, and so forth, that's something also that is regular and recurring. Everybody, say it at home. Seriously, say it out loud. regular and recurring, because a lot of people will confuse capital improvements with operating expenses or capital expenses with operating expenses. If a landlord says, yeah, great, yeah, my rent's $10,000 a month, and these are all my expenses, and my taxes are this, my insurance is this, I just the boiler in the building, I just put a new roof on, my utility bills are this, and my snow plowing is this. Guess what? You cannot use all his expenses because he just told you, or she, that they changed the boiler and that they just redid the parking lot, right? If they tell you those things, you have to pull those expenses out because they don't count as operating expenses. Why? Because they're not regular or recurring, right? So Brian says paying your debt service. Yeah, paying your debt service. What we're going to do, the assumption that we're going to do for this part, Brian, is that this is without any sort of any debt. What we're going to show you is how to value a property before debt service. But I like where your head is. That's a really good point that you brought up, right? Because yeah, paying your mortgage, that's something that's regular and recurring for sure, right? But in this case, we're doing it before you value the property. Okay, so the different types of metrics for evaluating properties, first and foremost is capitalization rate, right? Next, we have gross rent multiplier. Then we go on to cash on cash return. And finally, internal rate of return. For the purposes of today's class for income producing properties and how to value them, we're going to be really focusing in on capitalization rate, okay? Or cap rate. Everybody loves talking about cap rates. What's a cap rate? Well, ask Irv. Who's Irv? We'll get to that on the next slide. But basically, the capitalization rate is a relationship between income producing properties' net operating income, which is, if you remember from 2 slides ago, is income minus expenses, right? In the simplest form, is your net operating income. So it's the relationship between the income of a property in the form of net operating income and its value, or the purchase price. So the formula, if you look below, right, is net operating income divided by purchase price. So if you, for instance, take an NOI or net operating income of 70,000, you divide that by $1 million, let's say, asking price for the building. So like Mr. Jones has this building, he wants to sell it. It brings in $70,000 a year of NOI. He's asking $1 million for it. The cap rate at that price is a 7% cap rate. Now, a lot of people kind of confuse things and with cap rate and rate of return and yield and stuff. The one thing I want you guys to remember, right, is that cap rate is just a snapshot of one moment in time, right? So like, for instance, from one day to the next, your cap rate could change. Okay, I'll tell you what, you guys tell me how, and you guys know that income minus expenses equals your net operating income, right? And you know that the cap rate is derived from the net operating income. Can you guys tell me what would change, what would happen that could cause your NOI to change? Put it in the chat, please. What could happen to the operation of your property that would cause the NOI to change? Let me ask you that. Wait for it. Wait for it. Think about it. What changes your NOI? Your NOI comes from the rent that comes in minus your operating expenses equals your net operating income. Rent is increased. Awesome, Bruce. Hit it right on the head. Yep. That's one thing that can happen. Yep. Decrease in expenses. Absolutely. Okay. Yep. Stop paying a bill. Absolutely. Yep. Tenant doesn't pay their rent. Yep. You could get or stop paying a bill. Like you could say, you know what? I'm gonna mow the lawn myself. I'm gonna fire the landscaper. Yep. Mike says occupancy, 100%. Exactly. Tenants move out, bills go up, bills go down. There's 5 more snowstorms than there was last winter, whatever that might be, right? So absolutely, Karen, utilities, 100%. Yeah, so you guys are getting this, right? So now that you understand how NOI is determined, now we can see, okay, well, now cap rate doesn't stay stagnant or stay static forever. It's constantly changing. 1 month to the next, one tenant moves out, one tenant moves in, rent goes up in apartment A, little old lady moves out, married couple gets married and they move out and get a new apartment, whatever that might be, right? So things are constantly changing. It's like the ocean. It doesn't stay the same forever. So the point is the cap rate is just a snapshot of that particular moment in time. 1 month to the next, it can change. 1 day to the next, 1 bill to the next, it can change, right? So, so good, guys. I like the fact that you're getting this. Okay, so there are 3 different ways to kind of figure out, value of properties and how to derive, right? So like I said before, there's ask IRV. Well, who's IRV? IRV is an abbreviation of the formula I equals RV. It's a formula used when valuing income producing properties, right? If you know 2 of the 3 variables, you can figure out the 3rd, right? So in this particular case, I equals income, R equals rate, and V equals value. So this is the way that these variables are expressed, right? I, income, is net operating income, okay? R, rate, is expressed as a percentage, AKA cap rate or rate of return, okay? And V is value expressed as a dollar figure, right? This could be the sale price, right? Typically it's the sale price or the asking price, depending on whether you want to know what the cap rate is based on the asking price. Maybe you want to know what the cap rate is based on what an investor is willing to offer on a property, maybe an investor that you're representing, right? So it's important to understand the value, how the value changes, right? Whether it's asking price or sale price or offer price, what have you. Okay, so if you know the rate and you know the value, you can figure out the income, right? Just like simple algebra, right? You have 3 variables. As long as you have 2 of the 3, you can figure out the 3rd. So in this case, right, if this building, so we're going to take an example building, right? Nice little building right in the middle of Main Street. And if the building is worth $1 million and the rate of return is 8%, then 0.08 times 1 million equals $80,000, right? So this will give you an idea of kind of how, if you want to understand what the NOI of a building is, this is the way to figure it out. So if you have the income, and I'm sorry, you have the asking price, and you know what the cap rate is, then you can how much it's producing. When do you use this formula? Let's say you have a client, right? And they say, listen, I'm selling my business, but I want to make sure that I bring home $50,000 a year. So I need you to go out and find me a property. Cool. Okay, no problem. You go on there with your fast fingers and you go to loopnet.com. You start looking up properties and you look up only properties that and your client's budget, right? Your client's budget is let's say $500,000, right? So if your client's budget is $500,000 and you know that your client needs to be making $50,000, then you know they need to be making a 10 cap, right? How do we know that? Because 500,000 times 10% equals $50,000. Like in this example, if your client says, listen, I need to make $80,000 in income, you know that if the rate of return is 8% and the asking price is $1 million, you know that if they're going to be able to buy a property and pay $1 million for it, if they're going to get 80,000, it better be making 8% rate of return. Does that make sense to everybody? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so that's one of the ways where you can use this formula. Not quite the most used way, but we're going to get into the 2 most used ways in the next slide here. So here we go. If you know the value and you know the income, right, you can figure out the rate. Okay, so for an example, the same building right in the middle of Main Street, worth $1 million, and the income is $75,000. Then 75,000 divided by $1 million equals 7.5% rate of return. Now, why is this important? This is easy peasy, right? Because if you have an investor that says to you, okay, well, I tell you what, Charlie, go out and find me a building, right? But I'm making 4% in the stock market, and I'm only going to take my money out of the stock market if I can make 50% more return. Okay, you say to Charlie, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to say, listen, okay, I need this building. I need whatever investments I look at for this particular client to be a 6% rate of return. Okay. So, and if you know what their budget is, right? You know that you have to work things backwards, right? So if you're looking at a building and it brings in $75,000, and the building is worth $1 million, right? It brings in 75,000 in NOI, and you have it's worth $1 million. Then you know that the cap rate or the rate of return is going to be 7.5%, right? So what does that mean to you? The client that's looking for a 6% rate of return, right? Cap rate is always the higher when you're buying is always better. Okay, so a 7% cap rate is higher than 6%. This property would work for your client when considering if they're getting 4% in the stock market, this property would work, right? Now, if let's say instead of let's say the same property, right, was instead of being 7.5% rate of return was, or I should say, instead of making 75,000, was only making 55,000, right? Would that property be a yes or a no? So think about that. I'm making you do a little, it's a two-step equation. So here we have $1 million property at 75,000. That's a 7.5% rate of return. Our client wants to buy a property at 6% rate of return, but this building only produces 55,000. Can anyone tell me what that cap rate would be at $55,000 of NOI? Go ahead and type in the chat what your cap rate would be if this building was worth $55,000. I want to take this and have you guys apply this, right? So you take 55,000 and divide it by $1 million, right? And that's going to give you your cap rate. You guys can type that in the chat. Let me know. See what you come up with. Okay. Yanira comes up with 5.5%. Okay. Anybody else? Only one star student today? Okay. Anybody else? So remember, Brian, 55,000 divided by $1 million equals what number? Okay, good. Okay, so you guys are getting this, right? So the reason you use this formula is so that you can determine what rate of return a property is making. So let's say you see something on LoopNet and it's a property and they're looking for $1 million, right? Oh, he's rounding up. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, if you have a calculator and you're rounding. So here's the thing: if you take a property, right, and you look at it and you know the NOI, and you know the value, you can figure out what the cap rate is. A lot of investors will call you up and say, hey, Chris, I'm looking for something, but it's got to be a 7% rate of return. Our job is to take and look in the market, find information, and then see whether or not, it's our job to vet it, right? But what we can do is we can pre-vet a lot of these properties so that you don't just put a bunch of junk in front of your client, because the fastest way to not do business with somebody is to just kind of throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, right? So absolutely, our job is to understand this stuff inside and out, backwards and forwards, okay? So when you have that, when you have the rate of return now, for this particular inversion of the formula, you'll be able to understand what a property, what cap rate that property is producing. Everybody with me so far? Okay, now, next one, and the third, right? If you know the income and the rate, you can figure out what the value is. Now, oh, by the way, before we go on to this one, another way you can use this other inversion of the formula, right? Let's say this particular area of town is a 6% cap rate, right? You know that properties all around there have been trading at 6% on average, some higher, some lower, but on average, over 100 transactions, it all averages out to 6%, right? The reason why this formula is important, this previous one that we just got done doing, right, is because if you have a client, for instance, you have a client and he has a property that he's asking $1 million for, and his property is creating $60,000 of NOI. Can anybody tell me whether or not that property will be at market, above market, or below market? Now remember, this property is bringing in $60,000. They're asking $1 million for it. And what they want to doing is the market cap rate that's prevailing is 6%. Can anybody tell me whether or not that property is at market, above market, or below market? Do me a favor and type that in the chat. want to make sure this is sinking in. Everyone's on the same page with me. By the way, guys, don't be shy. The more you type in the chat, the more this stuff sticks, the more you're able to use it, the more money you make. It's literally that simple. So, okay, Yanira says above market. Okay, let's do the math again, right? So think about it. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? Yanira says above the market. Brian, Mike, Guillermo, Gilberto, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Okay, in this particular case, if the building is making 60,000 and they're asking $1 million, 60,000 divided by a million is going to be 6%, right? And if the prevailing market cap rate is also 6%, then you're going to be right at the market, right? Okay. Similarly, right? If the building is making making $6,000 a year and you're asking $100,000 for it, right? You know that that's a 6% rate of return. The formula, whether it's 6,000 or 600,000 or 6 million, it doesn't matter. It's the same math, right? 60,000 divided by a million equals a 6% rate of return. Yep. Okay. So moving on to the next one. So the way that this particular formula also works is, let's say you have a client of yours, right? And instead of asking $1 million for that, let's say the prevailing market rate is 7.5%, right? So like just like this example here. And let's say the building is making 7.5%. I'm sorry, is making $75,000 of NOI. If the prevailing market rate is 7.5% and the building is making an NOI of 75,000, then to that market, that building will be worth $1 million, right? That's the market rate, right? When the money that it's producing is equal to the cap rate of the market, that's at market, right? Now, what if instead of asking $1 million, Mr. Smith decides to ask $2 million, right? Is that going to be above market or is that going to be below market? Go ahead and type in the chat. Let me know what you think. Okay, so if the market is $1 million, right? And Mr. Smith wants to ask $2 million for it, right? Is that too high or is that too low? Okay, one thing to keep in mind, right? And then this is really counterintuitive when you think about cap rates, right? Cap rates are like a seesaw, right? When the Yanira are too high. Yes, there we go, Brian, too high, exactly, right? Cap rates are funky and it takes a little while to get your head around it. I remember it wasn't that long ago that it was tough for me to remember. But think of a seesaw, right? Think of kids on a seesaw, back and forth. One kid goes up, other kid goes down, vice versa, right? Those two children, right? This child's name is price, and this children's name is value, right? So, or I'm sorry, this is rate. So you got price and you got rate. So when the price goes up, cap rate goes down. When the cap rate goes up, the price goes down. Does that make sense to everybody? Price up, cap rate down, price down, cap rate up, right? Okay. So that's why it's always why when you're a seller, when you sell the building, what do you want to be the highest? You want the value to be real high, right? So what does that mean? The cap rate goes low. When you're a buyer, what do you want? You want the price to be real low. So what does that mean? The cap rate's going to be real high. Does that make sense to everybody? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Okay. Price and value are inversely related. So price goes up, that cap rate goes down. Cap rate goes up, price goes down, right? Do you guys like buying things on sale? I know I do. I love a bargain. Cool. Okay, you guys are getting this. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Price up, cap rate down. Cap rate up, price down. So when you're the seller, you want to get the highest price possible, right? And when you're the buyer, you want to get the lowest price possible. That's just the way it is. That's just our nature. Cool. Okay. So you're getting this. So let's go to the next slide, right? The next slide is when we are talking, when you know the income and you know the rate, you can then determine the value. Okay. So if you're going to list a property, right? But for Mr. Smith, right? And Mr. Smith says, okay, Charlie, hey, listen, I want you to list this building. You're a nice guy. You've been coming around and knocking on my door every couple of months. Here's what I'd like you to do, right? I'd like you to tell me what my building is worth. Okay. And he goes, here are my rent rolls and here are my expenses. I want you to figure out what my building's worth. No problem. So you go, you do some magic, you check out what comps are doing, what other things have sold for in the area in terms of cap rate. Maybe you talk to some of your broker friends, right? And you figure out what the cap rate is, right? And he has already given you the income and the expenses. So with those two pieces of information, we can tell Mr. Smith, excuse me, what his building is going to be worth, right? So in this case, Mr. Smith tells us that we figure out, he's got his income, he's got his expenses, and the NOI, as we figured it out, is $100,000 a year. And then we went online, we went on to CoStar, we went on to a bunch of different places, and we figured out that the cap rate of the area is 8%. Okay, so you got the $100,000 in NOI that we figured out from the rent rolls that he gave us, and you got the 8% that we know the cap rate is. Then we can figure out the value of the building. So in this particular case, excuse me, you get 100,000 divided by 0.08, and that's going to give you 1.25 million. All right. Let me know, guys, if that makes sense to you. So you're going to go to Mr. Smith and say, Mr. Smith, I did my homework. I checked everything out because of the fact that your property is bringing in X amount of money and the cap rate in the local area is X. The value of your building is 1.25 million. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? So do me a favor and give me a thumbs up in the chat if that makes sense to you guys. In fact, give me a +1 in the chat if that makes sense. I want to make sure we're all on the same page because this is a very, very important distinction that I'd like you to make or I'd like you to understand. All right? Awesome. We got some thumbs up. Okay, Brian, thanks for the feedback. Okay, so this is the way that we can figure things out. We can take this formula and we can figure out what this building will be worth, what the market will pay for the building, right? The market is an organism and it's filled with a whole bunch of people with different investment criteria. But the market value is going to be what the average of what the market will pay. And in this case, it's 1.25 million, right? If we know the rate and the value, right? We know what the income of the building must be, right? And if we know the income and the value, we'll be able to figure out what the rate should be. Everybody with me so far? Once you work through these formulas and you see it and you actually put it into practice, it makes it a lot easier. This sort of information, right, is important to not just recognize, not just understand, but it's got to be on the tip of your tongue, right? So, and that's what we go into in our coaching program. We go into how to week after week after week implement this, talk about it, understand it, look at deals, analyze deals, so that when you go out into the market and you're doing this in real time and you're in front of Mr. Smith, you can make an airtight argument as to why his property is worth $1 million and not worth $2 million. Does that make sense? Because show of hands, everybody, right? I want you to type +1 in the chat. If you've ever had anybody and they have the beautiful baby syndrome and they think their property is worth 20 or 30 or 50% more than the market, can anybody else type a +1 if they've ever had that? Like other than every single client you've ever dealt with? Very few times does a client come to you and say, you know what, I want to put my property in the market, and it winds up being like, oh, I don't know, 20% below the market, right? 9 times or 10 times out of 9, right? You're going to have the client that wants to put their property just a little over the market. Why? Because they got a beautiful baby and it's just a little bit prettier than everybody else in the market. So, okay, so you guys are with me, so you understand. All right. So, gross rent multiplier is another metric that we use. So we covered cap rate. We covered, the 3 different variables. We're going to go on to a different metric, and I'm going to show you why cap rate is a much better indicator than gross rent multiplier, right? So gross rent multiplier is the ratio of the price of a real estate investment, annual rental income before accounting for expenses such as property taxes, insurance, and utilities, right? So basically, the gross is the amount of money that a building brings in, okay? So read that definition again. It's the ratio price of real estate, to its annual rental income before accounting for property taxes, insurance, and utilities, right? So let's say you have building A here with $100,000 of rental income, and building B here, which also has $100,000 of rental income, right? With the gross rent multiplier, if you're asking $1 million for the building, right, then what you do is you take $1 million divided by what the gross rents are, and that will give you a number. That number would be 10. So for this building, bringing in 100,000 and asking $1 million, it's 10. And this building asking $100,000 or that makes $100,000 and you're asking $1 million, the gross rent multiplier would also be 10. Can anybody tell me why these two buildings could be different? What they're not taking into account with gross rents? It's right there on the screen. I'm going to point to it. Before accounting for expenses, property tax, insurance, and utilities, right? So these two buildings, they both have a gross rent multiplier of 10. Am I correct? Right? We just covered that. Now, this building has, I don't know, $40,000 of expenses a year. And this building has $80,000 of expenses a year. So even though the gross rents are the same, the asking price is the same. This building has $40,000 of expenses, which means their NOI is going to be $60,000. And this one has $80,000 of expenses, which means their NOI is going to be worth $20,000. Can you see why this ratio doesn't mean anything, right? Because it doesn't take into account expenses. The only way this would make sense is if you had a triple net property in which the tenant pays all the expenses. Other than that, but for some reason, a lot of investors like to say, oh, what's a gross rent multiplier? What difference does it make, you know? But it's something that's taught in textbooks, but I want you guys to be aware of it enough to know to avoid it, because this particular metric doesn't do a lot for us, right? So yeah, exactly. Like the insurance could be at 80 cents. Yep. Okay, so the whole point of what I wanted to show you folks today is to go, you know, how do we go from knowing to owning, right? These skills are super duper important. Like I mentioned to you folks, right? You know, you can have the best property in the best area of town, but if you don't have it priced properly, it will never, ever sell. It will never sell the price that you're asking, right? It might sell, but it won't sell to what you're looking for. So you have to know this stuff on an intuitive level. If I said, you know, A, B, C, D, you would say E, F, G. If I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you would immediately spit out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Why? Because we know this. We have internalized it. We have, they call it overlearned these sequences, right? This information, if you're going to learn how to sell commercial properties, needs to be just like your ABCs. It needs to be just like, knowing the colors of the rainbow, knowing 1 and 1 is 2, right? So the point of it is you need to not just learn these skills until you get them right? You need to learn them until you can't get them wrong, right? Because this is a very, very important thing. And the beauty thing is, once you take the time and you get these skills sharp, number one, you have them for the rest of your life, but you can earn tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars with this particular skill set. Because everything in commercial real estate revolves around what somebody is willing to pay for it, okay? Just like any investment anywhere. And again, when you go into a listing agreement or a listing meeting where you're trying to get your listing agreement signed, either they are selling you on their price or you are selling them on your price. And the more confidence we have, the more skilled we are at doing this, the better case we can make to our clients. Does that make sense, everybody? Right? So the next question would be, how do you come up with these skills, right? How do you refine these skills? How do you master these skills? Here at CRE Basic Training, right, we have a 6-month coaching program that we can help you folks learn these skills, right? The better you get at them, the more commissions you can earn. It's literally that simple. But if any of you guys are interested, right, type #training in the comments below. We can hop on the phone. I can explain to you a bit about what we do. I can even show you kind of what the course structure looks like and so forth. But we have a lot of people that have gotten amazing results just by learning the kind of the key things that are missing for residential agents. You guys know more than you think you do, but there's just a few key skills that we have to plug in for you to get you off and going, right? So we have, like I said, we have a 6-month coaching program. We take you through the A to Z of the process. So it's prospecting, it's valuation, it's marketing, it's learning different property types, it's learning all the foundational information so that you can be razor sharp when you get in front of somebody. Maybe you don't want to jump into commercial full time, and frankly, I don't always recommend it. What I say is keep doing what's already working for you and just add in commercial, right? Guys, do me a favor and put what states you guys are from. I know we have New York, I know we have North Carolina, I know we have Florida. Where else are you guys from? Go ahead and put that in the chat for me, right? So I just want to I always start the call with this, but I want to put this in the context, right? And I'm not recommending everybody just jumps off the boat and then hops on the commercial side. I think that would be career suicide. However, add on a little bit of time. Don't change what's already working for you. You take what's already working for you and add on 1, 2, 3, 4 commercial transactions, a year, because it can have a major impact, right? So Brian, you're at 2.5 million in the state of New York. Karen, Oklahoma is 1.3 million. So do yourself a favor and do me a favor and type in the chat what 1.3 million times 0.03 is, right? Albert, coming in from LA, yeah, LA. California is 2.8 million, right? So the average, do me a favor and type that in the chat, what 2.8 million is times 0.03. I want to put this into real, actual, tangible numbers, guys, because for you to understand what just adding 1 or 2 transactions a year, the amount of impact it can have on your income. Mike in Iowa, we have Iowa is 1.4 million. So Mike, do me a favor, put in the chat what 1.4 million is times 0.03, right? Because just adding 1 deal a year can make a major improvement. In fact, this is another way to really put it into perspective. You guys really want to understand what the impact of this could be? Type in the chat how many years you plan on being in real estate for. How many more years do you want to be in brokerage as an agent or a broker, right? Do me a favor, just type in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 2 years, whatever that might be, right? Because I'm going to show you something that's going to blow your mind, right? So do me a favor and type that in the chat. Okay, Brian wants to be in 5 more years. Okay, good. All right. Who else? Mike, how long you want to be in? Albert, Gilberto, how long you guys want to be in? Yanira wants to be in 10 more years. Okay, got it. Good. Okay, so again, everybody, I've given you, and while other people are reporting in, I've given everybody what happens in their local state in terms of what the average commissions are. I track them all through CoStar, which is the largest aggregator. Yep, 1.3 times 0.03. Yeah, so you're looking at 30. So what that is going to be $33,900 is what that represents, Karen. Yeah, so Mike wants to be in for 15 years. Awesome. Okay, guys. So now, and Mike, do me a favor. What was it? Iowa's 1.4 million. So what's 1.4? We'll do this example for Mike, right? Let's take and look at what Mike wants to be in for 10 years, right? So 0.03 times 1.4 million, okay, equals $42,000, right? Did I do that right? Yes. Okay. 42,000 times, this is easy math, times 10 is $420,000. What does that mean? Let's see, did I get that right? 0.03 times 1400000. Mike, I get 42,000 when I multiply 1.4 million times 0.03, right? So if you take 42,000, right, and you multiply that by 10 years, that means if Mike only closed 1 deal a year on average, on the average size in the state of Iowa for the next 10 years, he's going to put in not 420,000, an additional 420,000 in his pocket. You guys see the power of this? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Mike has it at 15. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Even better. 42,000 times 15. Right. That's $630,000. Right. One average size commercial deal in the state of Iowa over the next 15 years. Right. Let's take Yaniro. She's here in Miami, right? Okay, so 0.03 times 1.9 million, right? For those of you in the state of Florida, average sale price here is 1.9 million, right? That's 57,000. So Yanira wants to be 10. So if you close one transaction a year, Yanira, that's 570,000 additional dollars in your pocket. Okay. And even if let's say you say, oh, I can't do that, fine. You close one deal every other year for the rest of your career, right? It's still almost $300,000 in your pocket. I think you guys can see how powerful this skill set is here. It's no joke when I say it can put hundreds of thousands of dollars in your pocket throughout the course of your career, right? So if you guys want to learn this skill set, if you want to really get good at it, because it's not a question of, can I recognize it? Can I do it? Can I kind of get by? Because trust me, a sophisticated investor will smell you a mile away. But if you know this stuff, if you spend some time, spend a few months learning it, I promise you will have the skill the rest of your life and you'll be able to make a ton of money doing it. You'll be prepared for when that once a year that someone comes by, that twice a year, 3 times a year, however many opportunities come to you a year, you'll be able to help these people, right? So if you want to learn more, you want to understand more about how we do this, how we help folks, type #training in the comments. We'll reach out to you. We'll get you on the schedule so we can show you exactly what we do and see if it's a fit for you, right? So thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for hanging in. Tonight was kind of a long live, but it is an in-depth concept that we deal with. But go ahead and reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm in the Facebook page, or type #training down at the bottom if any of you are looking. Brian, you are 2.5 million, so that'll be 250,000. 0 times 0.03, that's going to be 75,000. So it's $75,000 per transaction for you. But yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, #training, reach out to me on Facebook Messenger, and I'd be happy to help you with these concepts. Yeah, Gilberto says, I love real estate forever, lifetime. Exactly. Gilberto's going to make a ton of money. He's one of my students out and work in LA. He works on big multifamily deals, and he has a bright future ahead of him. He's a very smart young man who is on his way, and he's dealing with some really big clients. So he's just a perfect example of that. So absolutely, real estate is awesome. I hope you guys get as fired up about it as I do, because it's a great way of accumulating wealth, making an impact on those around you, for yourself, for your family, for the greater good. So I'll leave you with that, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week at 5:30 p.m. on Monday afternoon. Talk to you then. Bye-bye now.